There's a fragrance brand called Ffern whose perfume collection waitlist is always full and closed before a single product is shipped. Sounds like a dream, right? But it's not because they ran out of product. They just wanted to create FOMO. Here's the catch. Everyone on the waitlist actually got accepted. So there's no such thing as a full waitlist. Search Ffern on TikTok right now and the top results aren't people raving about the scent. They're people saying they got charged £90 for something they never bought. That they all smell the same. That they faked the small batch and is actually making more than they claim. That there is no such thing as sold out and exclusivity. But contrast, that gap between the world that they built and what customer actually experience is exactly what I want to break down today. Because Ffern is one of the most interesting brand case studies I've come across. A company that got the branding and marketing almost perfectly right and then made a series of decisions that are quietly dismantling the very thing that made people love them. So here's what we're covering. I'm gonna show you what Ffern does in their brand and campaigns that is genuinely worth studying. Because if you look at the truth, their brand is thriving. Secondly, I'm going to break down exactly where and how it's gone wrong with real examples from real customers. And finally, the most important part, I'm gonna tell you what this means if you're building a brand right now and thinking about using their business model using methods such as scarcity or urgency. Let's get into it. So before we dive deeper into the spicy things, let me actually show you how Ffern operates as a company, because this will tie everything together and everything will make sense later down the line. Ffern operates on a seasonal subscriptions. 4 times a year, they release one fragrance tied to the season, which is spring, summer, autumn, and winter. On top of that, they do a separate campaign for each of the drops. Each season has its own theme. The theme revolves around nature, creativity, art, craft, which is basically the embodiment of their brand. I believe they also source their ingredients locally, so they always list their ingredients alongside the perfume description. Now, to get the product itself, you need to join a waitlist because the fragrance ships only to the waitlist members. They emphasize on small batches, natural ingredients, as we've seen before, and also close creative community. And so this also embodies one of their brand pillar, which is becoming an eco-friendly brand. They don't overproduce. They claim to make a few hundred batches, but as we dive deeper later on, it is safe to say that it is basically just a made-to-order brand, but they emphasize the idea of having the exclusivity and scarcity by joining the waitlist, and that's how they basically operate. Now, I tried joining into the waitlist, and I'm just curious to see what happens when I click on the join button, because apparently it always says that the waitlist is already full, but somehow if you see from the left sidebar here, the waitlist is always open and you can join anytime. So when you join, they actually provided a lot of questions for you to answer from. I believe this is also a part of their marketing tactic to build exclusivity. Again, the more that you feel invested in the process, the more that you would likely to be a part of it, be the community, because you feel like you contributed something. And that's why they ask multiple questions. They even give like a side note alongside your answers. That's also to add a little bit more personalization. And it's like showing the customers that an online purchase can also be personalized, just like how you would purchase something offline and the salesperson would talk to you, ask your preference. They implement all of that tactics, which usually only happens on a physical interaction, to the digital interaction, which I think is really smart. One thing also that I want to note is that not every brand can create this form with this many questions and still have a lot of people finishing the forms. I think it also really depends on your business model in the first place. The moment people see that it also takes effort for them to join this waitlist, that means that again it builds that exclusivity. Not a lot of people are willing enough to finish up until that end button, but on the other hand, sometimes having this many questions can actually kill your email conversion. That is also why you often see brands who only provide like 10% discount, please enter your email, make the form as frictionless as possible for the customers to join the email list, because it's a human nature for us to take the simplest route as possible, and that's why not every brand can pull this off. They did a great job at this. And then the third one is the packaging experience that they provide for their customers. The packaging itself is designed to be an event, so alongside the fragrance, members receive extras like handmade art prints, portrait cards, seed packets, tea samples. The whole thing is designed to feel less like an online order and more like receiving a letter from a thoughtful friend, which I think again, that's how they probably want their brand to be perceived. Just like how they use a personalized form, they also give you a very personalized experience the moment you receive the product. This is also another thing that they're really great about. I know I'm just talking about the great things that they're doing, but it's true that at some point they really nail things like this, like the element of surprise, the marketing campaigns, the world building, how they bring in a community of people to be a part of their world and their vision. They did great at that, but there's also some things that they're not really great at, which I'm going to cover in a few minutes. And this is also actually one of the most crucial thing a brand can do nowadays, is to not only set a good first impression through your product, but also your packaging. Because before they see your product, their first impression is not your product itself, but the experience of opening your product and using it for the first time, right? So they really set the tone here by, again, just making everything personalized, everything curated, even gives extras, which people love elements of surprise. They love to get something that they did not expect. So under-promising is such a really great tactic. If they had a good experience in opening the packaging itself, they will have high expectations for the product, which can be a good and bad thing at the same time. But most of the case, if you have a good product, this will improve the experience of the customers using the product overall. Most importantly, they're no longer doubting that they've made the right decision or not. Usually within the moment they purchase the product, which is clicking the purchase button, up until the point the product arrives to their doorstep, they will have this moment of doubt. They'll think, is it really worth the money? Am I making the right decisions? They have all of that questions above their head, right? And if you just add this one simple step, it will probably eliminate most of their doubts in the first place, and they think, well, yeah, this is worth it. Next, I'm going to talk about the customer journey, how they became this big brand whom everyone loved and also despised at the same time. Firstly, the top of funnel, which is the awareness stage. This is, I think, one of their greatest upper hand. And it's true that nowadays it is getting harder and harder to get attention. New brands pop out in everyone's For You page and everyone's Instagram every day. We are overwhelmed by the amount of products out there, the amount of business trying to pitch us a product. And so what has become leverage, which is social media, like a few decades ago, there is not this much amount of opportunity handed to businesses who wants to get ahead. Like if they want to do marketing, they would have to put up a billboard, they would have to open up a physical store, just taking that extra step to get in front of the right people, right? But nowadays, with the power of social media, it has become definitely easier for businesses to get recognized by people. But now the challenge is, how do we get not only in front of people, which is already hard in the first place, because again, there's just too much content nowadays, but also how do you get in front of the right people who will trust you enough to browse through your products and click that purchase button. Now, the main differentiators here between the brand who succeeds at getting attention versus the one who doesn't is the amount of excitement that these brands deliver to the viewers. To put it simply, boring brands are gonna stay average, while the brands who can execute really well on their storytelling, conveying that vision and getting people to resonate with their idea, that's another thing on its own. Making all of that fun, exciting elements is the challenging part nowadays. And to be very real, a lot of brands lack that. A part of it is because the market is moving so fast. If you have a business, you will have to adapt to these fast emerging trends. And the trends that we see nowadays is that we live in this new economy with taste. Everyone has taste, everyone has preferences. They're more educated than ever nowadays. And so it is your job to be able to grab their attention, educate them, give them as much value as possible so that they are able to trust you and purchase from you. Now, as you can see here, Ffern is at their top of the game when it comes to creating campaigns and specifically visual storytelling. When you open their website, you will see immediately that they have a short film, and this short film literally feels like a trailer to a movie, right? And yes, it takes a lot of budget, it takes a lot of effort, but does it grasp people's attention? Yes. Does it make people feel a certain way? Yes. Does it excite people? Yes. And that is the difference. And compared to other brands, especially fragrance brands, very few of those brands actually executed this very well. If you click on their Instagram and scroll through their post, what you can see is there's not a lot of promoting of their fragrances, and that is very much deliberate. They're creating a world that people want to be a part of. If you're selling a product to people, you're starting it off wrong. You need to sell a feeling, you need to sell the vision, you need to bring people to your world, and then you provide value and communicate why they should buy your product. Nowadays, people just don't like to be sold for the most case. There's too many options. They're overwhelmed already by their daily life. They don't want to see another business account posting about their products without communicating it clearly why they should need them, why they should purchase them. So from the short films that they created, from the reels, from the post, there is a pattern here, and that pattern really brings you to the world that they're trying to build. People love that. People resonate with that. They have a certain vibe, aesthetic that would bring a certain people in. If you post about nature, you'll probably attract people who also love nature, the ingredients, local source, all of that, and they use that as an advantage and sell these people fragrances. So the contents are not only whimsical, which also I think is now a very big trend that we're seeing in our life. Part of why this works really well is because of that emerging trend. Not only that, they also make contents that people can relate to and that people can share. So it's not just curated photos, visuals, but they also add an element of human onto it. Next is the middle of funnel, which is the consideration stage. The way I see them execute on this stage is by running ads that are educational. So again, when we look at their content, it's mostly visual appealing, exciting, shareable, fun, but not a lot of it are educational content. And so that's where they put all of their effort in the ads to educate people further who are aware but not knowing this brand further. And if you see from Meta Ads library, they have around 460 active ads. Yes, that is a lot, and this is also related to their Instagram account, which if you can see here, they're averaging on like 50k, 100k views. So to target those people who saw the Instagram post, they would need to launch a lot of ads on a bigger scale because they're also a bigger company. Again, nowadays people are educated more than ever. You'll see that brands nowadays prioritize communicating the ingredients compared to like a few decades ago where people doesn't even know the sugar level inside a cereal, right? You look at most skincare brands nowadays, especially Korean brands, they provide the ingredients in front of the labels as like the marketing because people are more aware of what they put into their body, how a thing is made, and there's just ample of information online. It's easy for us to just search the meaning of something and get the information about it. And so Ffern also uses that educational bit to convince people even further. Now, bottom of funnel, which is the decision. So if I were a customer, the moment I decide would also probably be the moment where I check their website, plus searching on like TikTok and Instagram to see other people's review, which I will cover pretty soon. But if you look at the website and you see that there's a waitlist for this product that is currently full, you have to answer multiple questions to even get inside the waitlist, you'll probably be convinced that this business is legit. Like, okay, a lot of people really bought into this thing. That is one really good selling point. And also, of course, with every website nowadays, you have the ratings. Particularly for Ffern, they actually just presented the 5-star reviews, which is, again, actually really brilliant, but I wouldn't recommend it if you want to build authenticity with your brand, which is the whole topic of what this brand messed up in the first place. So this is more of like a curated testimonials. And then we have the cherry on top, which is sampling system. The biggest objections that people have when purchasing a perfume online is that they couldn't smell it, right? And so Ffern solved that issue by giving out free samples for people to try. If they don't like it, they can return it completely for free. For the customers, there is no risk in doing this, right? They have made it so frictionless that it is a no-brainer to say no. Now, the byproduct of this is that this model taps into 3 powerful psychological levels. First one is ritual. Because it is seasonal, the fragrance becomes tied to a year, a feeling, a memory based off their campaign. The viewers or the customers feel like they don't just buy a scent, but they buy the maker of time. However, it is also important to note that creating a feeling and moments doesn't stop after the customers notice your brand and after the awareness stage. It has to continue on up until they receive the product and even post-purchase. How you retain that customer, how you retain your LTV, all of those stuff. Secondly, it's belonging. People being on the waitlist signals that you have taste, you found something before the masses did, and it turns customers into curators. The limited batch they claim also made someone feel special, that they are the only few people in this world who has that. Again, playing with that urgency, which is a good thing if you don't lie about it. Unfortunately, that's what this brand does. But before I cover that, they also actually did well on the scarcity part. However, I must admit they overplayed it, but the fact that you can just buy this product whenever you want to, and you have to be in a waitlist for months before you're accepted, it makes the whole moment feel precious. Not only is the aesthetic that they're creating is coherent with the earthy tones, nature textures, film, photography, every visual says that it's not a product, but it's a philosophy. They didn't just sell fragrance, but they sold memberships to a season, a lifestyle, and a world that people want to be a part of. For a while, that was enough to make people queue for something they hadn't smelled yet. Now, this is the part I really want you to pay attention to, and probably the reason why you click on this video in the first place. Let's talk about what's actually happening when you pull back the curtain. Layer 1, we have the product gap. Yes, the packaging experience, the marketing experience, all of it is exceptional. But the fragrance itself, it is mid at best. Must say that with fragrances and with everything in this world, people has their own preferences. And so, of course, there is a group of people who love Ffern, who love the smell of it, who stick by it. I'm not saying that those people shouldn't do that, right? But right now, we're talking about the patterns that we will see when we search up Ffern on TikTok, the reviews that are consistent, the experiences that people share online that seems to be similar experiences with others. That's what we're seeing. So if you search on TikTok or Reddit and look at their review, the common complaints you will likely find is that it smells generic. Although they create 4 perfumes within a year, all of it smells the same. It's underwhelming for the price. The sillage, which is how far the standard project, is minimal, and it fades quickly. And so for a brand like this who charges premium price on the premise of exceptional quality, fine or mid is a brand problem. They've been preaching about a group of experts building it out of passion, making small batches to maintain the quality and also sustainability, but it doesn't live up to that expectation. No matter how good your branding is, nothing can save you if you don't have a good product. You need the balance between the two. Having just good products and not good enough branding will also kill your business. This is where we started to see another pattern within Ffern is the distance between the promise and the product gets too wide. At this point, the customers doesn't just feel disappointed, but they also feel deceived. because the brand was the one that raises the expectation. It's probably gonna be a different story when they heard it from someone else, but if it's coming from the brand, this is what happens. You get all of these sad reviews. Layer 2, we're gonna discuss about the mechanism that betrayed them. This is step-by-step customers of Ffern's journey. First thing, I would say step 0 is they found a content of Ffern, whether that be in TikTok, Instagram, or Pinterest, or any other social media. And as we've discussed before, Ffern does a free sample. So it is understandable that they use that as an ad angle, because again, solving that biggest objection is probably their biggest leverage here. And so they would want to use that. Now, step number 2, the customer signs up thinking that it's a one-time sample or a free gift. It seems frictionless. You will not lose anything if you sign up to this, right? So then the next step, by signing up, they're automatically enrolled into the subscription model, 4 fragrances per year, billed quarterly. Now, I'm not just saying this as like a hypothesis or something that could happen. This is actually happening to someone. Step 4, weeks later, they're charged £90 with little or no warning, as you can see here. And the many other screenshots that I put inside this PowerPoint of people complaining that they got charged without them agreeing to be a part of the subscription model is crazy. So some customers report being charged even when they didn't believe they provided payment details. I've seen a comment about this one, but I'm not really sure if this is just the customer not being aware that they have provided any payment details, or that is true, like Ffern just got their payment details somewhere else, which is scary, right? But the fact that these people signed up for a free sample but then got charged for it is already a really big red flag in the first place, and it gets progressively worse over time. There's a lot of comments of people saying that they tried canceling the subscription, but not only the process itself was a drag, but Ffern didn't ended up canceling their subscription. And so again, the constant cycle of them being charged £90 because of something that they didn't even want in the first place is mind-blowing. Customers level is below standards. I even saw one comment that they threatened Ffern to put them off the list, and that's how they actually stopped the list. They wait for a threatening message before they actually cancel the subscription. And so imagine someone who is very excited to receive the sample of this brand and ended up getting scammed multiple times on top of that because it's really hard to get in touch with their customer service. This could all ruin their online shopping experience. And if I were these people, I would definitely become more aware of what I'm shopping online. And again, this is why it's getting harder and harder for people to build a legitimate long-term business nowadays, is because everyone is also getting more and more skeptical by the day because of instances like this. Another cherry on top is all of the scarcity that they have built is actually fake. So if you look at the Ffern packaging, it says that you are the how many number of people out of 100, for example, people that receive this fragrance, limited edition. Little do we know that is fake, okay? Like if you stick by your words and actually give exclusive products to people, I think that this campaign would really work. I said campaign because if you build your business model around scarcity, it's also not going to be a good thing, which I'm going to cover in a second. Now, the damage this made is not just that customers don't feel as special anymore. It doesn't only feel like it's overselling, but it also feels like the intimacy and exclusivity they paid for was manufactured. And manufactured intimacy, once exposed, feels worse than having no intimacy at all. This is why breakups are so heartbreaking. You put your all into a relationship just for the other party to break your trust and disappoint you over and over again. This feels exactly like that. Why? Because they did so good in their branding. They are able to pull people into their world just for them to scam these people and break their trust. That is why scarcity only works because it creates genuine desire, excitement. But if the scarcity is exaggerated to the point where it becomes a mechanism of the business, to the point where access comes with hidden charges, you've lost the one thing that made everything work, which is the customer's belief that you were on their side. Not only that, the word scarcity as a marketing term itself already gives people ick. And probably this is also because people's disappointment has been built up. We have built enough evidence to see that there are a lot of scammers out there. And so if we hear something or we see something that uses the scarcity method over and over again, we'll see that as a marketing scheme. We just know it damn well that it is gonna be sketchy. And then the third layer is the trust breach. Once you break that trust with people, you're not gonna get just "I'm disappointed" comment, okay? You will ultimately get cancelled big. They will not only leave a comment on Ffern's post telling that the product is shit, they will also tell their friends, their moms, their teachers, they'll tell their clients, they'll tell everyone in this world to not purchase your product. Surely they'll back it up with evidence that you actually did not do a great job with your business. The main point of this is that people can see Ffern as a cruel brand because these people have probably invested more in Ffern than with other brands. They invested in watching the short films, in getting to know the brand, in becoming a part of the brand, joining the waitlist, feeling like they are a part of something, just for the brand to burn all of it later. So again, this is why scarcity works when the limit is real. If you say you're gonna make small batch, be sure to actually make small batch and prove it to people that you're making small batch. The customer opted in with full understanding understanding full authenticity. When you provide not only clear information but evidence proving that this scarcity is genuine, that's where you can win people's trust and the customers can join with full understanding. The product delivers on or above the promise. It's not just the promise revolving around the product quality, but again, it's more like your business as a whole. Are you delivering everything, every part of the customer journey, whether that be pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase, on quality that they expect or that turns out to be better than they expected? And finally, if the brand uses it occasionally, not as its entire operating model, because simply people are tired of the fake scheme. Now, scarcity backfires when the limit is manufactured or exaggerated. The mechanism to participate comes with hidden costs. Again, whether that be as simple as you disappointed knowing that it's actually not a limited edition, to the point where you get scammed, actually get your money taken without your permission. The product doesn't match the world the brand built. If your brand preaches about authenticity, preaches about quality, but then delivers something else, you're already breaking not only the customer's trust but your brand image. It backfires when it becomes the only idea. A brand that is scarcity has nowhere to go when the numbers don't hold. You can build a world with branding, but you can only build a business with trust. Both needs to coexist in this new economy. So if I were advising Ffern, even now, even after all of this situation, here's what I'd say. The world that you built is worth saving. Because what? The aesthetics, the seasonal ritual, the philosophy of slowness and intention, all of those are generally rare and good, and you have executed it really well. But you need to set expectations throughout the rest of the customer journey too, up until those people receive your products. Your people already has really high expectations from your campaigns, so of course you need to live up to that. You cannot charge people for things they didn't choose. You cannot claim 400 and then sell to 4,000, because all of it is wrong. It is not how you operate a business. The brands that last are the ones to hold themselves to the same standard they ask their customers to believe in. Remember, the customers are not dumb. So yeah, a rebrand is completely okay if this was the case, where not doing a rebrand is ruining your business more and more than you trying to take a different approach. Here's my thoughts on how they can flip the script. Firstly, try to come up with at least one core signature product. From the outside perspective, it can seem like having multiple products that comes by a season as something special, because once that's out, that's gonna be out forever. But it also can ruin your credibility. Why? Because people want to see you have a good product that you can sell over and over again. They want to see a signature product that actually works. If you didn't have any signature products, there's no way to tell that your product is actually good enough to stay long term. There's also no way of people repurchasing that product if they actually ended up loving it. So the product itself does not only help people to recognize your brand, but it's also a form of credibility. It can also become a part of your brand, something signature that people can tell that, oh, I know this is from your brand. Next, remove the waitlist PS completely, or actually implement the waitlist honestly. There's no in between. What they're doing right now is in between. Either you just scrap the waitlist and position it as a made to order perfume, which sounds better, okay? Actually, if you still want to take that approach, you can definitely just position it as a made to order brand, or just implement a waitlist for early access, which is what most brands do nowadays. The waitlist is for you to give maybe like an advantage to your email subscribers, whether that be as simple as a discount, monthly surprises, early access to drops so that they can access it before it sells out. All of those perks, there are plenty of options that you can choose from. Just don't do something that exploits people's trust. Next, which is also very important, is fixing the backend and prioritize customer service. Customer service is one of the most underrated, but the most important part of your business. It can make or break the business, quite literally. One bad customer service, that person will tell the whole world about your brand, and your brand goes downhill just simply because of one bad customer service. So if people beg to stop your subscription, please act fast, apologize, and stop the subscription. Stop taking their money. You're basically a robber. A brand's business job is to eliminate friction, not add on to it. People buy because they want to solve a problem, but because of a shitty customer service, you ended up adding more problems to these people who want a solution to their problem in the first place. Cuckoo doesn't make sense. Next, the product itself needs to be good, okay? We have free will. We have the right to speak up, and you should use that to your advantage. You can see there's a lot of people's frustration in comments, Reddit's posts, all of that. Definitely use those as a sign to fix your product. Maybe you launch it to a group of beta testers first. Maybe you take all of those customers who are complaining and make them a part of creating the product itself. You give them a sample of the product, ask them any improvement that you should make, ask them about the feedbacks. That will end up working better than you just completely ignoring these people's suggestions. And then finally, improving the little things that people complain about. This is pretty similar to the previous list, but this is more in terms of showing these customers that you actually listen to them and that you appreciate their words, their opinions. Let them know that you actually listen to them, either by making the product better or just changing anything that they don't like about your brand. Ffern might still turn this around. The bones of what they built are beautiful, but trust, once broken with people who love you most, is the hardest thing in business to rebuild. Let me know in the comment below what brand I should break down next. Brands that are doing something unexpected, whether it's working brilliantly or quietly falling apart. I am open to any suggestions. You have a good product but you want to boost your awareness and brand concept, creative direction, and storytelling, hit me up. There's a link below to book a free strategy call with me where I'm gonna dissect your brand and provide you with suggestions on your branding direction. Finally, if you like this video, I will break down another Korean fragrance brand that I actually own and liked and try to come up with ideas to make their branding better. Watch the video here if it's already posted, and I promise I'm not just making fragrances breakdown, but since we're on this topic, might as well. Alright, I'll see you on my next brainstorming session. Have a great rest of your day.